Let me tell you something women rarely admit. When we're really attracted to a man, we don't make it easy. We make it complicated, on purpose. You're probably thinking that doesn't make sense. If she likes you, why wouldn't she show it? Why the mixed signals, the hot and cold behavior? Here's what most men don't realize. There's a specific reason women behave this way when they're genuinely interested. And because you don't understand that reason, you're reading her behavior completely backwards. You're interpreting her signals through the wrong framework. So when she does certain things, you think it means she's not interested. And you either start chasing, which pushes her further away, or you back off completely, which confirms something she's already afraid of. This video shows you how to read what's actually happening. I'm breaking down 8 specific signs women show when they're attracted, but hiding it. Signs that look like disinterest but mean something completely different. Plus, the psychology that explains this behavior and what to do once you recognize it. By the end, you'll have the correct framework for interpreting her actions. Let's start with the psychology. But before we dive into the signs, let me be clear. This video isn't about manipulation or playing games. It's not about tricking anyone or attacking women for being cautious. This is about understanding female psychology so you can read situations accurately instead of misinterpreting them. Here's the truth most men don't understand. When a woman genuinely likes you, vulnerability becomes a risk. The more she's attracted, the more she has to lose if you're not interested or if you reject her. So her instinct is to protect herself. And that protection often looks like the exact opposite of interest. Most dating advice tells you to look for green lights, obvious signs she likes you. But that's the wrong framework entirely. What you actually need to recognize are the behaviors women use to hide their interest while still staying connected to you. Let's go deeper into why this dynamic exists in the first place. Think about how attraction works for women. When a woman meets a man she's genuinely interested in, what's her biggest fear? Not that he'll say yes, that he'll say no, or worse, that he'll seem interested but lose interest once she's emotionally invested. That fear changes her entire behavior. The moment she realizes she's attracted to you, her defensive mechanisms activate. She starts managing the risk by controlling how much interest she shows. She'll engage, but not too much. She'll be warm, then pull back. She'll create opportunities for you to pursue her without making it obvious. When a woman shows obvious interest and gets rejected, she feels exposed, vulnerable. So her psychology tells her, don't show your cards too early. Let him show interest first. Make him prove he's genuinely interested before you reveal how you feel. This creates the dynamic that confuses you. You're looking for clear signs, but what you're seeing is strategic concealment. She's interested but protecting herself. And because you don't understand this is the pattern, you interpret it as lukewarm interest or mixed signals. Most men respond in one of 2 ways. They assume she's not interested and back off, giving her space she didn't want. Or they sense hesitation and pursue harder, which makes her pull back more because it confirms she wasn't careful enough. Both miss what's actually happening. The men who understand this, they recognize protective behavior for what it is. They don't chase it or retreat from it. They understand it's a sign she cares enough to be careful. So now that you understand the psychology behind why women hide their interest, let me show you exactly what that looks like in practice. In the next 8 sections, I'm breaking down the specific behavioral signs women show when they're attracted but protecting themselves. The friendly distance paradox, the overcompensating casualness, the text communication paradox, the covert attention, the involuntary physical responses, the social circle clues, the testing behavior, and the future projection. By the end of this video, you'll have the correct framework for reading her behavior. You'll stop misinterpreting protection as rejection, and you'll know exactly how to respond once you recognize these signs. Let's start with sign number 1. Sign number 1, the friendly distance paradox. Here's what this looks like. When you're in a group setting, at a party, a work event with mutual friends, she's engaging. She laughs at your jokes, she makes eye contact, she participates in conversations you're part of. From a distance, it looks like she's comfortable around you, maybe even interested. But the moment you're alone together, everything shifts. Suddenly she's quieter. The eye contact becomes more sporadic or intense but brief. She might seem nervous, or she'll fill silences with surface-level conversation. What was easy and natural in the group becomes awkward in private. Most men interpret this as, she's friendly in groups but not actually interested. And that makes sense on the surface. If she liked you, wouldn't she be more comfortable one-on-one, not less? But here's what's actually happening. In group settings, she has cover. There are witnesses. It's safer to be warm and engaging because the social context protects her from vulnerability. If you don't respond to her warmth, she can play it off as just being friendly. No risk, no exposure. When you're alone, that safety disappears. Now every interaction carries weight. If she's warm and you don't reciprocate, it's obvious. She can't hide behind the group anymore. So her protective instincts kick in and she becomes more guarded. Here's how you differentiate this from genuine disinterest. A woman who's genuinely not interested is consistently distant in all contexts. She doesn't light up in groups or find reasons to be in your conversational orbit. The paradox, warm in groups, guarded alone, is the tell. But here's where it gets even more interesting. Sign number 2 reveals how she overcompensates when she's trying to hide it. Sign number 2, the overcompensating casualness. This is when she tries too hard to act unaffected by your presence. You walk into a room and suddenly she's very busy with her phone. You start talking, and she responds but with this deliberate nonchalance, like she's making a point of not being too eager or interested. You might notice her voice changes slightly. Maybe it gets a bit higher or more controlled than normal. Or she fidgets while appearing calm. She'll act like your presence doesn't matter, but her body language betrays the performance. Here's what most men think. She's genuinely indifferent. If she was interested, she'd show it, not perform this casual act. But here's the reality. Performed indifference requires effort. Real indifference is effortless. When a woman is truly uninterested, she doesn't need to convince anyone, including herself. She just is. She doesn't think about how to act around you because you're not on her radar. But when she is interested, that's when she becomes hyper-aware of how she's coming across. She doesn't want to seem too available, too eager, too affected by you. So she overcompensates by acting extra casual. It's theatrical indifference, and the very fact that she's performing it means you've activated something in her. The tell is in the contradiction. If she truly didn't care, she wouldn't need to work so hard at appearing like she doesn't care. The effort itself reveals the interest. Which brings us to sign number 3, and this one shows up in how she communicates. Sign number 3. The text communication paradox. Pay attention to how she texts versus how she acts in person. You'll see delayed responses even though she's clearly online. Her texts might be overly brief or formal despite being animated when you talk face-to-face. She might use fewer emojis or keep her tone neutral in writing when she's warm in person. What's happening here? She's using the medium to create controlled distance. Text gives her time to manage her responses, to not seem too available or too eager. She can strategically delay to avoid appearing like she's waiting for your messages. But here's the differentiation. A genuinely busy person has inconsistent patterns, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, depending on actual schedule. A woman hiding interest has consistently controlled patterns. The consistency is the tell. She's managing it deliberately. And this brings us to sign number 4, which reveals she's not just hiding, she's actively paying attention. Sign number 4, the covert attention. She knows things about you she shouldn't casually know. You mentioned something in passing 3 weeks ago and she remembers it. She's aware of your schedule, your interests, your social circle, details she could only know if she's been paying very close attention. Or you notice she's gathered information through mutual friends. Someone mentioned something you said, and she already knows about it. She's been asking about you, investigating, but indirectly. Most men don't notice this because it's subtle. She's not asking you directly. She's collecting information quietly. Here's what this reveals. You can't pay that level of attention to someone you're indifferent about. The brain doesn't retain random details about people who don't matter. The fact that she knows these things means you're occupying mental space. She's thinking about you when you're not around. The tell is when she references something she shouldn't remember or know. That's when the covert attention reveals itself. Now we're moving into the signs that bypass conscious control entirely. Sign number 5 is physical and involuntary. Sign number 5, involuntary physical responses. These are the signs she can't fake or control. When you talk to her, watch her pupils. Do they dilate slightly? That's an automatic physiological response to attraction. Does she blush when you're around even if her demeanor stays cool? That's her body betraying what her mind is trying to conceal. Notice if she mirrors your movements unconsciously. You lean in, she leans in. You cross your arms, she does the same a moment later. Mirroring is a subconscious sign of rapport and interest. And pay attention to proximity. Does she find reasons to be physically near you? She'll position herself in your line of sight at gatherings. She'll take the seat next to you when there are other options. She'll create incidental physical contact, brushing past you, touching your arm briefly when talking. Here's why these matter more than anything else. These responses bypass conscious control. She can control what she says, how she texts, even her facial expressions to some degree. But pupil dilation, blushing, unconscious mirroring, these are reflexes. They're honest signals her body sends despite what her mind is trying to project. If you're seeing involuntary physical responses, you're seeing attraction she can't hide, which leads to sign number 6, and this one plays out in social settings. Sign number 6, the social circle clues. Her friends know about you. You can tell because they give her knowing looks when you're around. They might make inside jokes or comments that reference you. They're in on something she's told them privately. Watch how she acts when you're in the same social space. She becomes hyper-aware. She's tracking where you are, who you're talking to, without being obvious about it. And here's a big one, competitive behavior. If another woman approaches you or shows interest, watch her reaction. Does she suddenly become more engaged? Does she position herself closer? Does her energy shift? That's not indifference. That's someone protecting their interest. She might also strategically position herself to stay in your line of sight. At parties or group events, she'll make sure you can see her, even if she's acting like she's not paying attention to you. The social circle is an extension of her interest. If she talks about you to her friends, if they're aware of the dynamic, if she reacts to competition, these are signs she's thinking about you enough to involve her social world. Now we're getting into the more sophisticated signs. Number 7 reveals testing behavior. Sign number 7, the testing behavior. This is when she creates small challenges to see how you respond. She might playfully disagree with you to see if you hold your frame or if you fold to please her. She'll create little tests, selective availability to see if you chase, or she'll mention other men casually to gauge if you react with jealousy. Sometimes she'll pull back deliberately to see what you do. Does she wait to see if you'll pursue, or can you remain grounded? These aren't games in the manipulative sense. They're verification. She's testing whether you're actually confident or just performing confidence. Here's how you differentiate testing from manipulation. Testing comes from a place of interest verification. She wants to know if you're as solid as you seem. Manipulation comes from a place of power games, trying to control your behavior for her benefit. The way to pass these tests: don't react emotionally. Don't chase when she pulls back. Don't get jealous when she mentions other men. Stay grounded, because what she's really testing is whether you need her validation or if you're secure without it. The fact that she's testing means she cares about the outcome. And that leads to the final sign. Sign number 8, the future projection. Listen for how she talks about the future when you're involved. She might casually mention an event weeks or months away and see if you'd be interested in going. She'll remember plans you mentioned and follow up later. How did that thing you were working on go? She creates hypothetical scenarios that include you. If we ever went to that restaurant, or you'd probably like this movie. She's imagining a future where you're connected, and she's testing the waters to see if you'd be interested in that future too. Here's the key. Genuine disinterest stays present-focused. When someone isn't interested, they don't think about future interactions. They don't remember your plans. They don't imagine scenarios that involve you. But when a woman projects you into her future, even hypothetically, it reveals she's thought about what that would look like. She's imagined it enough to mention it. This is the sign that separates hidden interest from mere friendliness. Friends can be warm, can pay attention, can even test boundaries. But future projection, consistent, repeated references to scenarios where you're together down the line, that's interest she's trying to gauge without revealing too much. Now you have all 8 signs. But here's where most men make the biggest mistake, and I need to be honest with you about this. Here's the truth you probably won't hear from most dating advice, and it might be uncomfortable, but you need to hear it. If you're seeing all 8 of these signs consistently, over weeks or months, and she still won't reduce the distance, that's not hidden interest. That's emotional unavailability. Real interest, even when it starts protected, eventually lowers the walls when there's clear mutual attraction and safety. If the hiding never decreases despite you creating opportunity after opportunity, you're not dealing with a shy woman who likes you. You're dealing with someone who enjoys your attention but isn't willing to risk actual vulnerability. And here's the part that's hard to accept. Some women are attracted to you, but will never let it develop because they're protecting something else. A past hurt, another connection, or just the comfort of staying in control. So here's what you need to ask yourself. Are you seeing these signs as confirmation that she's interested but protecting herself? Or are you using these signs to justify waiting for someone who's never going to let their walls down? Strategic patience is powerful, but there's a difference between strategic patience and wasting your time hoping someone will eventually be ready. The man who understands these signs has a choice. He can recognize interest, create space for it to develop, and if it doesn't, he can walk away without bitterness, because he knows he read the situation correctly. He just also knows when someone isn't willing to meet him halfway. That shift alone, from hoping for certainty to creating clarity through observation, is what separates men who stay stuck from men who move forward with confidence. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these 8 signs have you experienced? Are you seeing multiple signs or just 1 or 2? Drop your situation in the comments below. I read every single one, and I'll give you my perspective on whether it's hidden interest or something else. Because this isn't just about one woman. This is about men developing clarity and confidence in dating, understanding female psychology so you make strategic decisions instead of anxious guesses. When you can read subtle signals and respond without chasing or retreating, you stop being reactive. You become the man who observes, understands, and acts with intention. Remember, a man who can recognize protection without taking it personally, who understands fear without enabling it, and who knows when to stay and when to walk away, that's magnetic. You're not the guy stuck overthinking every interaction. You're the guy who reads situations clearly, creates space for interest to develop, and moves forward with confidence whether she matches your energy or not. That's the difference. And now you have the framework to do exactly that.